Hello and welcome to the call. This is Andy, Atlas Forge. Today we're going to talk about digital assets, particularly the improvement in money. For millennia, since biblical days, money has been the one thing that has never changed. The people that control the money, of course, control the people. And the figures that you're seeing on the screen right now is really the evolution of money. Now, granted, the coats that you see as fur and the spices that you see, it goes all the way back to, again, biblical days, the old Silk Road. These were means of barter. This was money back in the day. Spices and furs and food was bartered and exchanged. And then slowly but surely, gold and silver. Gold and silver has been around since the first chapter of the Bible. It's been that mainstay. It's been that true money that the world always, I guess, relates to or falls back to when the current vehicles and situations with what we call money today goes awry. And we have an archaic monetary system that is very fragile. It's very fickle, if you will. A lot of things control it. I believe it's manipulated. Most asset or paper asset monies, whether it be the stock market, whether it be gold and silver paper, there's a difference. There's a true value in having value in a real property, owning it, maintaining it, and controlling it. So over the years, we've gone from spices and the fur trades to gold and silver to really years and years and years ago, they backed fiat currency, and how that all came about was gold and silver was too heavy to carry around. It's one of the downfalls with gold and silver. It's not portable. And present day, 21st century, it's regulated, it's controlled. You have to declare your assets if you want to take it across the border, for example. And you see that in a lot of areas in the world right now, that governments, when they go bankrupt, when they become insolvent, when they can no longer maintain the peace and control the people, why, of course, the capital control could be something as easy as confiscation, reducing your ability to get your own money, or putting limits on how much money you can get on any given day. So we've seen the evolution of money. And, now we live in a world, 1971, of course, Nixon took the world off the gold standard that backed the US dollar, which really dominated the world's landscape as far as money. And in 1968, in the Coinage Act, they took silver off as well. You could no longer take a silver certificate and go into the bank and redeem that for silver. So in 68, silver went away. 1971, gold went away. But if you look at money and how it's evolved, all of the use and all the vehicles that are used to move money and make transaction and barter are still around today. You could still barter with spice. You could still use fiat currency, of course, gold and silver. And then in the 1950s in the United Kingdom, a little company called Diners Club changed the whole world. It made it easier and faster to pay with a credit card, but it also introduced debt and the ability for people to buy things that didn't have enough money for the item. And that, fast forward to 21st century today, that's what's got us into the mess that we're in now. Is, quite honestly, people are buying things that they can't afford, and they're living off of credit. Now, credit and debt has hit an all-time high worldwide. It's approaching $300 trillion worldwide, and that's at literally 0% interest rate. So there's a whole bunch of free money floating around the world, and these vehicles, or these monetary vehicles that are used today, credit cards are debt. And at some point, you have to repay the debt. And that goes for individuals, countries, states, governments, banks, central banks. They're all operating on free money, funny money. And you look at it at a standpoint from a consumer's standpoint, they live month to month in debt. They have to have that fancy new house, the fancy new car, and new clothes, and all the latest gadgets. Well, look around. 9 out of 10 people, or at least 8 out of 10 people in your neighborhood, are severely in debt and growing. At some point, all this debt needs to be repaid. And how that works out will be very interesting moving forward. Like I always say, this will be a very challenging fiscal decade. There's a lot of debt and there's going to be a lot of changes. And if history proves right and it's accurate, like it's always been, we, the middle class, are going to bear the brunt through taxation to repay all of these monies that have been just printed and printed and printed, trillions and trillions of dollars. And the bad thing about it is the trillions of dollars that have been printed by the Fed and the central banks around the world, is it's not gone to improving standard of living, reducing debt, or funding social programs. It simply went to the central banks. That's why you don't see the hyperinflation that we should be seeing, because the money never got to the end user. So with that said, now we move forward in the 21st century and we have computers and we have smartphones and we have the ability to facilitate the movement of money rapidly, cheaply, and very inexpensively. And quite honestly, cryptocurrency fits that bill. That's why we have this point in time in history that we, the people, have the ability to own, maintain, and control our own money. And that's huge. It's never happened before in history of man. So it was only a matter of time, once we saw the internet get traction, start gaining market share, that there'd be a payment system that could work and coincide with the internet. And that's why we have cryptocurrency. My point of this slide is money has evolved, or types of money or barter has evolved, but it hasn't evolved for good, because we've become greedy. And fiat currencies of the world are the common denominator. If you look throughout history, from the Greeks to the Romans to, fast forward to, and pick any country, 4,000 fiat currencies have existed over time. And every one of those, and when I say fiat currency, it's not backed by anything tangible, i.e. gold or silver. Those monies simply go bankrupt. And there's been 4,000 currencies since the inception of quote unquote money that didn't work out well. They went bankrupt. The ruler of the time, of course, was ousted, and these currencies go bankrupt. So now it's even worse, because it's debt. We're not even spending money that we've earned. We're spending money that is on credit, and that's very dangerous and very scary. So what's the solution to manipulation, inflation, printing of money? The answer is cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin, because it can't be inflated or manipulated in such a way that fiat currencies can, because any government has the ability to just print as much money as they want. So cryptocurrency comes to the forefront. It's filling that gap, that all important gap of money and real money, and it's considered real property. Bitcoin will be the future. It will be the cryptocurrency will be that payment mechanism that will tie everything together through 5G without central authority. And that's huge. I mean, countries have gone to war for the control of money, and it's happened, multiple times. There hasn't been money is used in such a way that control. And then, every 15 years or so, you see a bubble, a housing bubble, a credit bubble, a stock market bubble, a war, a crash. So we live in very volatile times. So it would be prudent to have assets that you own, maintain, and control. And a big one is when these governments print and print and print money, it devalues the money that you have. It's called inflation. And inflation is that silent killer. And why I have an asterisk by no inflation with the Bitcoin here. When I look at cryptocurrency, there is an element of inflation. It might not be solitude to or subject to one specific cryptocurrency, because in their white papers, in their algorithm, they have a set number of coins that are going to be distributed. But every time you have a soft fork or a hard fork or yet another cryptocurrency come on to an exchange, to me, that's inflation. It doesn't reduce the value of Bitcoin, for example, but when you have 2,000 cryptocurrencies, typically what happens is the money or the revenue or the usage of cryptocurrency that is now spread over 2,000 different coins takes away from the monetary velocity of 5 or 10 strong coins. I'm all on board with cryptocurrency, but quite honestly, 95, 96, 98% of all cryptocurrencies have no utility, meaning they don't have a usage. They're not being used. They're just a coin. So instead of tens of millions or billions of dollars going into the top 10 cryptocurrencies, that money is spread out over 2,000 different coins. And I understand the reason why people are doing it. They're trying to buy a coin that has a very nice price point that they can get in. And it's like a lottery mentality. They're buying these coins hoping that, it'll react like a Bitcoin did. They buy an obscure coin for, 0.0008 Satoshi, or let me just make it simple. They buy a coin for 1 cent. So every dollar they get 100 coins in hopes that, this 1 cent coin will hit $1 or $10. But what it really does, it breaks down the unity and the amount of money that moves within a coin. It spreads it out. It takes 5 or 10 really great coins, and it takes money away and from those coins, and then it's redistributed into one of the 2,000 cryptocurrencies that really won't be around 5 years from now. So it conquers and divides. I get why people want to diversify within cryptocurrency. However, those monies now are spread across 2,000 coins versus 10. And that is monetary velocity that really needs to be focused on 5 or 10 coins, because we have this time in this window of opportunity where we, the people, have the ability to own, maintain, and control our own currency. And if we're not wise, this opportunity could change or go away. And it's based simply on greed. People think that they can just, by happenstance, pick up one of the 2,000 cryptocurrencies, put $100 into it, and make $5 million. It's not going to happen. That boat's already sailed. Now, how do you make money in cryptocurrencies? Is the question now. All these linear thinkers and all these people that only look at the price, they don't give any value to the privacy, the security, the inflationary concept or non-inflationary concept, the utility, the usage. They don't give any value to that whatsoever. When Nicole and I started into cryptocurrency, we bought cryptocurrency more of a hedge, more of a real property that we own, maintained, and controlled, that if something would happen in the central banks with our fiat currency, we had another spoke on the wheel. We had another asset that we could liquidate, we could store online, we could take across borders. All of these things add great value to cryptocurrency. We didn't think, however many years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, that we were going to make millions of dollars in cryptocurrency. That wasn't our intent. Our intent was to be properly diversified over several different asset classes in multiple jurisdictions and under multiple regulatory authorities. Because what happens when the proverbial, hits the fan? Why, of course, it's the country that tries to keep the money inside their coffers. That's why you have capital controls. That's why they close the bank's accounts. That's why they limit how much money you can take out. So a prudent investor, a prudent individual will have multiple assets in multiple jurisdictions for that reason. And for that reason only, it gives you a plan B, a plan C. See, those that are going to survive this very tumultuous decade that's right in front of us, this is going to happen right now, will be those that are diversified. Now, with that said, how do we know what's going to happen? Because we've already seen it play out multiple times in multiple countries. Debt, insolvency. All you have to do is look at Japan back in 1980s. It is the absolute worst economy in the world, Japan. It's got approximately 280% above its GDP, meaning 2.5 times the money that they bring in goes out. They're bankrupt and they live on debt. And it's gotten to the point where hyperinflation and debt in Japan has gotten so bad that unfortunately the Japanese, they don't have kids because it's too expensive. So I find it ironic that the leader of insolvency, being Japan, is the first one to lead the way into cryptocurrency. We in the Western world are really far behind China, Japan, the Pacific Rim in the cryptocurrency space. And you'll see more and more monies from the EU, the Americas, the Chinas, and those will soon follow. So, and I believe 2019 will be the year of, when institutional investors and private monies and equities and ETFs and the like, slowly but surely, once the regulatory bodies define exactly what we can and can't do, I think you'll see more and more. I think it'll have an upward effect on cryptocurrency. Now, how do you know which ones to buy, which ones to hold, which ones to sell? How do you make money when this space is literally doing nothing? Hold on for dear life. You hear the hodl all the time. Well, we have certain products here at Atlas Forge that are making us fantastic appreciation in the cryptocurrency space. So if you haven't reached out to Nicole or I, please do so. There's many ways that you can get involved with cryptocurrency and make a great decision and be in a great space, earning, diversifying within the cryptocurrency space. Because fiat currency is gone. Cash is gone. Fiat currencies are based solely on faith, and they're not backed by anything. Here's what typically happens. People don't react until it's too late. They see the warning signs and they say, oh, it's not going to happen. Oh, it's strong. The governments will take care of us. But guys, what you fail to see is governments don't take care of you. Every social program that we see is grossly undervalued, underfunded. And for those of you that are on fixed incomes, inflation is eating you alive. You will not be able to survive on your pensions, your fixed incomes, your 401ks, your self-directed IRAs, because the money's going to run out. And a lot of these social programs around the world that I research, they're based on returns that have not been achieved in 25 years. You look here in the United States, you look at the big one, Social Security. Its inception was what? Right after the First World War, 1933. It was based on a pro forma of 75 workers for one retiree that would provide a pension or a Social Security payout in their golden years. Well, fast forward real quick, the average return on these pensions and these social programs run by these governments are in a shortfall of about 4%. The average pension, the average social program by cumulative, the aggregate of countries worldwide is right around 4%. But the pro formas in which they guaranteed these monies were at 7.5%. So all of these pension funds are losing money and they're grossly underfunded. So don't expect, if you're going to retire in the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and then beyond that, you look at 3030, which is what, 11, 12 years away, social programs will be depleted. So a major overhaul is going to happen in pensions and all these social programs because they're bankrupt. So if you're counting on that, you really need to come up with a plan B. You need to have other monies. If not, inflation's going to eat you up. And what they promised, they're not going to be able to deliver. And that's just basic math. That's fact. So again, who's going to pay for all these underfunded liabilities? And that's what they are, unfunded liabilities. That they are laws and circumstance that have been sold to the public and promised. But if your expectation is you think you're going to get that, I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but you're going to be in for a surprise. So the amount that you're going to get in your retirement is going to be reduced. Couple that with out of control hyperinflation, you won't be able to sustain yourself. So it's very scary for those on fixed income, the baby boomers that are retiring. Either A, they need to change what they're doing, B, get into something passive, or even C, they're going to have to go back to work. And that's just macroeconomics 101. Okay, this is really the beginning where people are starting to have faith and understand what cryptocurrency is all about. It's all about monetary velocity. And what I mean by that, on any given day, $4.3 trillion is moved, whether that be in an investment vehicle, a credit card, cash, car payments, house payments, whatever it's the movement of money. And right now, Bitcoin is about 0.5% of that market. So it's only going to take one Fortune 500 company or one big country or some institutionalized investors that come into Bitcoin that could send this skyrocketing. So it's all about velocity. We need more people to get into the crypto space and to actually use it. There's coins now that have some great futures, that have some great utility, both now mining and the utility of it in the future. I know Nicole's going to do, so market penetration is huge. Let's not lose this opportunity, this once in a lifetime opportunity to, for we the people to have, own, maintain, and control our own money. It could be the biggest human advancement ever, in my opinion. That's how strong blockchain and cryptocurrency is. It will be the basis and foundation for money moving forward for decades and millennia to come. Now, we get into a lot of the trainings of utility, and the utility is the most important thing of all this, because you can have some of the greatest non-inflationary monies, which is what cryptocurrencies are, that are faster, safer, less expensive. But if nobody's using them, it could be critical to its future. So not only do we use it, we accept it at Atlas Forge as for a subscription or to buy any of our products. We're putting our money where our mouth is, and we are accepting cryptocurrencies and we're using it. We're part of the structure. We're part of the movement and the people that see the future, because that's what digital assets are. They're the future. There's no way around it. It makes sense on so many levels for individuals, companies, governments. Now, central bankers might not like it because it's direct competition with the current SWIFT system that we use now. And the SWIFT system controls about 93% of the world's money through archaic banking, high fees. Like we just sent a wire. It took over 5 days. It cost $60. Many of you know, Nicole and I just got married in Aruba, and I used my bank debit card, and I paid for the wedding and, you know, some different things. But the bank charged me over $800 in fees just because I used my debit card in another country. These fees are nonsensical. This is ridiculous. We're in the 21st century, and I have to pay my bank to use my own money. And you see, you know, 20 more central banks around the world that pay negative interest. We are actually paying the bank to hold our money and make risky investments that if they go bankrupt, they get bailed out. My question is, who's insuring me? Who's bailing me out when the bank makes bad deposits and bad investments with my deposits? Nobody. You have to be your own bank. You have to think this through. If you look throughout history, we the people always end up with the bill, not the central bankers, not the governments. We, us. So when I look at money and I look at my future and I look at how do I maintain my wealth? How do I save it? How do I secure it? How do I grow it safely? Like we always say, we hedge, and we insure what we have. We invest from a position of strength, and then we speculate in a safe environment. That's exactly what we do here at Atlas Forge. Everybody's situation is different. Everybody has different needs, but the common denominator is diversification. So that's where we're at in the world right now. As always, you look throughout history, will the masses once again be the difference the world needs? Because you look at the past, and all great change and all great advancement came through we the people, not the elected officials and governments. That's a huge statement. So we the people have the opportunity to own our own money. For the first time in humanity, we have the ability to control that. And if that's not valuable to you, then maybe you need to reassess a couple of things, because it may, I mean, it's the livelihood of you, your kids, your grandkids. We can't be enslaved to money. So that's my thoughts on that. So best improvement in money in 500 years. And these slides are, now granted they're a year or two old, but it really shows the point that half of the world's population is unbanked. Either they don't have an ID, a driver's license, a social security number. Some of them don't even have names. So it's damn near impossible for these people to get into the 21st century. Some of them don't have internet. Some of them don't. There is no local bank in Timbuktu somewhere in the world. So when you look at all these percentages, you're looking at, on average, 53% of the world's population has no access to capital, meaning they don't have a bank account. They're still back, trading food and spices and furs and those types of things. So what does cryptocurrency do? Cryptocurrency gives people the ability to become an entrepreneur, to have their first bank account, to be able to open their first business. And it's all facilitated through smartphones. And you're going to see this everywhere, because in the future, in the next 10 years, you won't need Wi-Fi to have access to your phone or to your bank account. It'll all be done remotely through satellites and 5G. There won't be a place on the earth where you won't have access to, you're using your phone, to your bank account. So these numbers are startling. 3 billion people. So when we look at that, and if you followed us here in Atlas Forge, why, of course, we know that the future, you're adding another 3 billion people onto the internet and smartphones and computers. And oh, by the way, in the next 20 years, just population explosion will be another 3 billion people. So it's very easy to conceive by 2030, we're going to have, upwards of 10 billion people on the planet. That means when 5G does hit, that's going to be tens of billions of new phones, computers, drones, and it'll all be run on 5G. And it's going to bring the world together as far as online access, banking, being an entrepreneur, welcoming billions of people into the world of capitalism. They've never seen it. And that's where the hot market is. That's where the market penetration needs to happen. And this is just people. There's hundreds of millions of merchants, same thing, all around the world. Sometimes our view as we, sit here in North America or Europe, and we have all the 20 luxuries of the 21st century, but you got to remember half the population has nothing. They're just now coming into capitalism to have the means to be a part of macroeconomics worldwide. So hundreds of millions of new merchants, e-commerce. One of the best, most effective businesses is e-commerce. Storefronts and shops and huge retailers are going to be a thing of the past. All deliveries will happen by drones, food, pizzas, clothing, whatever you want, wherever you are. The future will be exciting. It'll be innovative. It'll be really cool. But with it comes some dangers. And we'll get into those on the next call. For the most part, these numbers are very, very intriguing to me and compelling. It shows me where the demand is and where it's going in the next decade. That's why we at Atlas Forge, not only do we educate and operate in the cryptocurrency space, we also invest in the underlying products that make all of this possible. Without Wi-Fi, without the internet, you wouldn't have cryptocurrency. You would, but it wouldn't function properly. Smartphones, drones, electric vehicles, it all ties in together. That's why we offer gold and silver, strategic metals, because they're the underlying asset that makes all things possible, including cryptocurrency. So you're going to see a huge demand on some very, very rare strategic metals that will prove to be very profitable in the next decade as this plays out and the world comes into the 21st century. That's why we've put together our plan to educate, help people, put them in the right position to become in a place of very profitable. Like I always said, Wayne Gretzky wasn't the greatest hockey player because he was bigger, faster, stronger, taller than anybody else. He could see where the puck was going to be. And we can see that. We know what's happening. Nicole and I spent the last 2 years traveling the world to look at emerging markets, to get an assessment of where the world is going and how it's going to interact with the Internet of Things and 5G. And well, we've come back now and we've built Atlas Forge, and we believe that we're right on point with our thinking, our thoughts, the supply and demand of the products that we sell. Quite honestly, couldn't get any better. So right now, we can find ways to profit in cryptocurrency without even going to an exchange. And many of you who have just recently got into cryptocurrency, you've probably experienced the downward trend. And I get it and I understand it. But hold on. Don't be frustrated. Don't give up. Don't sell. Don't lock in your losses unless you absolutely positively have to. If you've lost 30, 40, 50, 60, 80% last year in cryptocurrency, you might as well hold it now. I mean, there's no sense in locking in a loss right now unless you absolutely positively need the money. Too many times people, they'll buy high and sell low. And it happens so often. A good rule of thumb, if everybody's doing one thing, do the exact opposite and you'll be perfectly fine. I've learned that in investing. I've been in financial vehicles and products my entire life. And one true statement that has always been very profitable for us is if the masses are doing one thing, do the complete opposite and you'll be just fine. So if you see everybody, just like the housing boom of 2008, everybody rushing out to buy these houses, they're appreciating like crazy. That was the time I sold my house. I sold at the top of the market. And sure enough, within 2 years, it all came crashing down. Everything is cyclical. Everything happens. And you look throughout history, it repeats, it rinses, and it starts all over again. So with that said, all that we need is a little direction, a little prudence, and we'll come out of this thing. No matter what governments and countries and central bankers do, you got to take care of yourself. And you need to engage in this and understand it. That's why we provide the information, the education on Atlas Forge that we do. It's for you. So with that said, I'll sign off. This is Andy, Atlas Forge, and thanks for being on the call today. Take care.